Okay. Exclude previously married.
No, I was open to that.
Okay. Exclude obese.
Yes.
Why are you laughing? What? No, you laughed.
Because you had a smirk on you.
I didn't laugh.
You're picturing me
Okay,
with
here we
an
go.
obese guy. That's
All right.
what you were doing.
I mean, I am chunky.
What's up, everyone? It's Kait
and JJ.
And this is the Heart of Dating podcast. We're pumped because we're doing a two-parter. We got today's and we got Friday's episode, and this is going to be a lot of fun.
What's it about?
It's going to be, are my standards too high or are my standards too low?
And Kait knows from personal experience because she really compromised her standards.
My standards were really low when I met you. Ouch. Hey, before we get in, should we just talk a few announcements?
Yeah. What, isn't there something new about school dating?
Yeah, so we have School of Dating. If you guys don't know what that is, first of all, it's our 8-week. Well, actually, this round, it's 11 weeks. It's an 11-week intensive because we are expanding phase 1 and giving everybody more time. But it's our intensive program that really transforms your dating life. And you can get on our first dibs list to get the massive discount. It's a private discount, so you have to be on the first dibs list. So if you text first dibs to that number, you will get the link to our lowest cost for School of Dating for the month of September, and which is a big discount. It's like a $500 discount.
But tell them about the new thing.
And it's so good. We love School of Dating. So we added a new thing this round of School of Dating that we've never done before. It's called SOD Pro. Basically, you do get a coach within SOD, the normal SOD. You get like one-on-one help, but you don't get like personal calls with your coach. You just get to chat with them over Messenger. So a lot of people needed extra help. They're like, I need to process this stuff with somebody one-on-one. So now we have SOD Pro, where you will have a coach that you can meet with like over the phone or on Zoom weekly for 30 minutes for 20 weeks. Okay.
That's insane. That's a lot of coaching.
So it's coaching throughout the program and for 9 weeks after the program, which you need help after the program because now you're putting it to the test, right?
That's awesome.
So SOD Pro, we also have a massive discount for that just for the month of September. So check that out if you go to heartofdating.com/School of Dating.
Okay. All right. So for the episode today.
Yes.
We're doing Are My Standards Too High?
Right. And then on Friday, we're going to do Are My Standards Too Low?
Do you feel like a lot of people ask you this or like they kind of drive themselves crazy because they wonder this at night after being single for so long? They have some friends who tell them, right, your standards are too high. And then the other friends who are just like, no girl, like, or no, my brother. No, your standards are perfect. Like, don't settle, don't compromise. Those are perfect.
Its biggest thing is don't settle, don't compromise, don't settle, don't settle. You deserve. That's the biggest language.
Yeah, we don't like that word.
Really, like you deserve the best, and you should go after somebody who is going to be the best for you. But let's talk about people that have too high of standards. I'm just gonna give a quick roundabout like explanation of what happened in my dating journey. So getting a lot of healing, when I was younger, over 10 years ago, I would say I had low standards. The reason I had low standards is because I wanted attention from any guy that I could get it from. And that's kind of what I looked for. I looked for a guy that was really into me and that was kind of pursuing me, though sometimes I like pursued him. And if he was attractive and it seemingly liked me a lot, that's what I went for. Okay. So as long as he didn't do drugs, you know?
So it wasn't really about the guy.
No, it was more about me and how much he liked me.
And the validation he gave you.
Yep, absolutely.
So would you say low standards is like connected with like identity issues?
Well, we'll talk more about that on Friday.
Okay.
But what I will say is after my abusive relationship, you know, I was brought to my lowest. I was in a very dark season of my life. And this is where I took a break off of dating and went through a process of healing. And a few years into that journey, once I decided I was ready, air quotes, to date again, because I don't think you'll ever be perfectly ready.
Right.
My issue after that was that actually my standards became maybe a little too high. Okay. Because now I was like, I never want to get hurt again. I've done a lot of healing. I understand more. So now I'm going to have like this crazy long list of things I'm looking for. And that for me was hindering, I would say, because now I'm being more hypercritical of every guy I'm dating. I'm looking for them to be very specifically a leader, that like read their Bible a certain way, worship God a certain way, like have certain kinds of friendships. Like I was very critical. That's where, that adult part of me in an unhealthy way came out, where I was quote healed, but now I'm like, oh, I'm not going to settle. So now I'm going to look for like the absolute creme de la creme, and almost like I want a guy that looks exactly the way I want him to look, whether or not that was even really the best for me, because some of that was like so specific. And actually in marrying you, I realized that some of those things that I wanted and that were on my list of standards, like probably weren't actually going to be that good for me in the long run.
So where do you think that comes from? Like what's the heart behind that? What's the real motivation behind it that drives that?
I think it's pride and thinking like I'm so great. So pre my healing journey, I thought of myself as very low. I thought of myself
very little,
I thought very little of myself. I had low self-esteem. I didn't have a lot of true love for myself. And because of that, I would take anything I could get. Right. And then post my healing journey, I feel better about myself. I genuinely care about and love myself and like myself to, a certain degree. And now because of that, I'm like, okay, well, this girl, she's going to get the best of the best. Okay. So now that so it's kind of like you see yourself almost in an inflated light. And so sometimes when your standards are too high, I think it's because you think very highly of yourself, and therefore almost to a degree that's unhealthy potentially. And therefore I'm going to look you're very judgmental of somebody else because they have to meet such very nitty-gritty criteria on your list.
Okay, so I have two questions.
Yeah.
First one would be, do you find that people who have that inflated, super particular list, do they even live up to that list themselves?
Oftentimes, no. I think there's a difference between having standards and having standards too high of standards. Okay, first of all.
Okay.
Like, I need to say that too, because I don't want people to think that like you shouldn't have standards at all. I think there are healthy standards. We can talk about some of those, but I think the reality is sometimes your standards are too high. You have unfair expectations. That's a big part of it. We know and see so many relationships completely crumble because of unfair expectations. I thought this girl, I hear it a lot from guys. I thought this girl who she on paper has everything I'm looking for. Then as I get to know her, we get into a relationship. Now some of her trauma's coming up. Now she's like maybe having more deeper emotions. And now I find that high maintenance.
Right. It's
and
much more messy.
I find her too needy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not what I want. And so bye.
Yeah. Or vice versa. The girl has these just wild expectations. We call that like the princess, theology.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's just they think they deserve like princess treatment. Like all the time, 24/7. It's always man serving her. Never really reciprocal and mutual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you. So I think it comes from an inflated sense of self and having a sense of like, I think it also comes from potentially self-protection. At least it did for me, for somebody who might have been in past abusive or bad situations or had bad relationships, right? Now it's like self-protection. I have extra barriers. So I'm going to be, and there is some wisdom to obviously, not overlooking very clear red flags in somebody to, we talked about this in our series last year. If you see a red flag, ask questions, get curious versus I see a red flag and I immediately write them off because that's not what I want.
And yeah, exactly.
It doesn't meet my standards.
Yes, exactly.
So there's a difference there. I see a red flag and I'm going to get curious and I'm going to ask questions before I make judgment. Or there's a person that I see a red flag and I'm like, nope, sorry, next.
Yeah. Well, were you going to ask me a question or can I ask you one?
Well, if you have another question, but I have some questions for you too.
Well, I'm just so curious. How do I have really good, healthy standards, but not out of a place of ego or pride?
Okay,
Like,
I want to
what's
get
my
to that,
heart
but I
and
want to ask you a
mindset?
question
Okay.
first. So, from a guy's perspective, would you say that you had too high of standards or too low of standards?
In my life,
Yes.
It's hard. I think because I was just so lackadaisical about dating, and I was so just kind of open to whatever. It sounds stupid, but besides like spiritually, like her maybe having a life that really pursued God, I did not think about standards at all.
Interesting.
And I don't know if that's like naivety or ignorance. Like I just didn't.
So you looked
think
for
about
if she was hot and loved God, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have said hot. I would have said like, "Am I attracted to her?"
Okay.
But if she was, and I did that thing too, right? Where I was that binary: if she is she attractive or not, and if she is, then I evaluated her spiritual life, and I really wish that was reversed. I really wish I looked at their spiritual life and emotional maturity and looked at them through that evaluation, and then physically maybe got to know them.
Well, I love that your honesty. So we can talk more about that on Friday's episode, but I do have some other questions for you related to guys.
Yeah. But I did have somewhat of a high standard.
Okay.
I would say like I definitely filtered out lots of women.
Was it more based on physicality or what?
Yeah.
What was your standards filtered on?
I would say, and we've talked about this in school dating, I probably hid a little bit behind the idea of the girl I want to date and marry is athletic and likes to work out. I think that's just kind of code word for like a certain body or figure, like physically looks a certain way, is attractive. There is some truth to it.
You like these guys?
It's so funny. Well, I talked about this in school dating. I probably said that, but underneath it, and it's funny, behind your standards and behind what you're wanting, there's usually something deeper. So while I might have said I'm looking for athletic and fun, it's more actually because when I prayed about it and I thought about it and we dove into it, what it really was yes, the physical attraction, and two, I saw my parents spend zero quality time with each other.
Yeah.
I saw my parents who were so different and made no effort to meet each other in their hobbies.
Okay.
So out of that kind of hurt or disappointment or sadness, I made that kind of like vow or internal promise, like I'm never going to have that. I'm going to find someone who I can share common activities with. And ideally, those are the common activities I already like.
Right. So you would have, in your perfect world, which I see why you did that. That makes sense. And there might be some health to that. And then I think though you skewed maybe on a little bit more of the extreme pendulum, like your parents did nothing together. Okay. So I want to do
there is
with
something
my
to
partner.
learn from that.
Right. Because like I do know in our relationship, it's like, I wasn't interested in football. I didn't really want to go golfing with you.
Yeah.
At first, I wasn't really interested that much in going to the gym. And so, for you, even when we got married, like you really want me to come golfing. You really want me to do all these things. And you're
I really yearn for that. Yeah.
My friends, girls, some of them do that, and I'm like, well, I'm not them. Now there's a balance though of like, hey, I'm never going to probably be the football lover that you are. I'm never going to watch and enjoy watching nearly as many games as you do. But can I make some effort to participate sometimes in something that you enjoy for the sake of our connection and entering into that with you?
Yeah. There's great joy in meeting your partner and their hobbies, likes, and interests. But there's also, building new things together.
Right. But I think that's a healthy balance of me saying, okay, I'm going to watch the Titans game with you on Sunday.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to watch this, that, and the other game.
Totally.
And, I'm not going to be in fantasy football and, I'm not going to just wear all the Titans gear. But so I think though, what you're saying is a big thing that guys look for specifically that I see is that do they like the same things I like? So I need a girl that loves going to the gym as much as I do. I need a girl that loves football as much as I do. I need a girl that likes hiking and outdoor stuff as much as I do. It's very lifestyle compatibility and very hyper focused. I think that's one really high standard that people, especially I see guys, put on what they're looking for is, do our lifestyles mesh completely? Meaning, like, does she like a lot of the same things I like? And the funny thing is, isn't it JP that says this, that really only thing that having all your likes and interests in common does is make your vacations a lot easier and nicer?
I said that.
Oh, I thought JP said that.
Just because it's smart and wise, it means it has to come from JP, not me.
Yeah, sorry, babe.
No, I mean, I can't even remember where I heard that. But I mean, yeah, that is true. We found that in our own life. What's up, fam? This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We've been so fortunate to have been sponsored by BetterHelp for years now. They are absolutely, without a doubt, one of our favorite partners. If you're single, this is by far one of our favorite things, not to just look for in a partner, but to go through and experience yourself, which is therapy. Therapy has been by far and away the best decision. It's the best money I spend on a monthly basis. My only regret is that I didn't start sooner in singleness, because you know what we say, there's no such thing as married people problems. There's only single people problems that we bring into marriage. So healthy singles lead to healthy relationships that lead to healthy marriages. If you've been waiting to do therapy, I'm with you. I waited for a long time. We have a great offer. If you go to betterhelp.com/HOD, we have a code for 10% off your first month of therapy. That's BetterHelp, HELP, betterhelp.com/HOD. What are you waiting for? Let's go. If you ask me, do guys have too high of standards today? I would say in general, yes. In general, yes. I do think there is an element to guys. We're looking for a girl who has a body somewhat similar to like Kim Kardashian, the spiritual maturity of like a Beth Moore, and like the low maintenance, emotional kind of like low maintenance and health and easygoingness of like some kind of rom-com 90s girl. You know,
well, even
like
then,
a Julia Roberts.
More of like they want the low maintenance of like their best guy friend.
Yeah, no, seriously. I mean, well, like think about those 90s and 2000s rom-coms with like a Julia Roberts. They're fun, they're quirky, they're easygoing, they're like throwing flour in the kitchen. You know what I mean? You never really see like the deep, emotional, needy side of these kind of female characters.
True. I think you need to watch some of that over again.
Yeah, maybe.
You're sugarcoating it a bit.
Do guys have too high of standards? I do think sometimes they do. I think sometimes they're trying to marry their guy best friend, who's like in a version of a hot girl.
Right.
Who likes sports, who's easygoing, who's fun, who's not needy, who's not high maintenance. I had that too.
Right. And I think it especially comes into play when emotions enter the scene.
Totally.
I'm going to bring up a situation from over a year ago from friends that we know. So the girl was dating this guy. They were dated for 6-8 months, something of that nature. And he had a brother, and the brother was married to a woman who they literally just never had conflict. They never had conflict ever. So his picture of what a relationship should look like is his brother with this wife who have zero conflict, like nothing is wrong in their relationship. So he's dating this girl that we're friends with. And, you know, as they get into things, she has a lot of emotions, which is totally okay. And she has some needs and requests, and she processes things, and she wants to talk about those. And, you know, he ends up making a comment to her. I'm, you know, kind of giving spark notes here of like, for him, that just felt too much. He thinks that relationships should look like what his brother and his brother's wife have, which is zero conflict, just always hunky-dory. And well, when we did meet with him, I was like, hey, you know, that is very idealistic and that is very rare. And I'm going to probably tell you that maybe in like 10 years, they're going to find out some things under the surface that are going to come up. Because every couple that I know realistically has issues of some kind.
Yes.
I could think of best friends of ours that, yeah, they're pretty healthy people for the most part. And so you bring those two very healthy people together, my friends Sarah and Chad, they don't have that many issues. Do they have zero issues? No, they probably have some issues, but I can't compare our relationship to their relationship.
Yeah.
Because Sarah and Chad don't have the same past as you or I do. And they just came into their relationship probably at a different level of security than you and I did. And that's okay. So with a lot of guys, though, I think they're looking for this girl that is like perfectly emotionally healthy, has zero trauma in her past, and doesn't have a lot of needs.
Yeah. I think both sides are looking for unicorns to a degree. If they do have too high of standards.
Too high of standards of girls too, but I'm just curious, you remember the example I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that you've seen a lot of guys that have that expectation of women?
Yeah, listen, and I had a very quote low maintenance mom, a very quote low maintenance sister. That was more because it was not a safe space for them to even share needs, right? Emotionally, it was not a safe space in the environment we grew up in. So I never knew what a normal situation looked like. I never, like, a girl just being somewhat emotional for me was being super emotional. Like, I had no scale for it. And I think if you
dated me.
Yeah. But if guys who maybe have not grown up around a lot of women or have not had a lot of female friendships, they're just not used to it. And so any girl who's hysterically crying at any point is going to feel like a lot. That's going to seem like a lot. And by far and away, the biggest challenge I see in dating a relationship and first years of marriage, myself included, and I hear this all the time from guys, is they are wildly unprepared to have empathy and compassion for how emotional their wife can be sometimes. I have a good friend today who just reached out. They've been married for 5 or 6 years, and they have 2 kids, and they are still going through this ringer where he doesn't understand her trauma. He can't provide the emotional, empathetic, safe space that she really wants. And it's still hurting, like deeply hurting their marriage 5 or 6 years later.
Yeah.
And so I'm never going to fault a guy for that. If you didn't grow up in that environment or if you didn't have a good example, I didn't. But at some point, we really do need to learn and grow in that. A lot of times, though, we've never experienced that deep, empathetic, safe space ourselves. So how could we ever extend it to our female partner?
Right. But okay, so I agree with you, and I have compassion for those guys. And once a guy figures out this girl is emotional or has a past or has trauma, like a lot of them are like freaked out by it and want to run away.
Yeah.
Because it is a hard battle.
I was tempted to with you. There was definitely like a couple moments in dating where I wanted to walk away. And I had peace about staying, but more importantly, I also had a mentor who was decades ahead of me and had many more years of experience with trauma, emotions, deep, deep empathy, who told me to turn around, lean on the Holy Spirit, and go back in that room. I'll never forget. I called him one time. You said things to me that I never would imagine, you say.
It was
a deeply traumatic moment. And I called him and I fully expected him to say, yeah, you need to walk away. That is not okay. And he said the opposite. He said, I don't care what she said. I don't care what she did. In this moment, you have an opportunity to love her. Forget all the hurt and the pain. We'll work through it later. But what you need to do right now is lean on the Holy Spirit and get back in that room and go be a safe space for her and empathetically love her.
Yeah.
And so I literally was like shell shocked. I took 5 minutes to pray and I walked back into that room. And that was the best thing ever for me.
Right.
That was the best practice ever for marriage. But that was such a foreign, I had never, ever seen that modeled. I had no compass for what that looked like. And I didn't take a peer. I didn't take a friend, someone who was in the same place or had no experience. I took a guy who was 1, 2, 3 decades ahead of me, much, much more mature than me. Someone who could be actually discipling and mentoring me to have that wisdom and guidance, that firmness to tell me to get back in there. And that's what I needed. Like if I didn't have that, I don't know if we would be married.
Yeah, so that brings up a good point. I think a lot of guys, and let's get to the girls too and how they have high standards. But do you think that some guys just have their standards and don't really run it by other guys and don't
Yes.
really have anybody checking in on like,
Yes. And if they do run it by, we're running it through a guy who's probably as mature as us, who
So-
doesn't have the wisdom we need.
so it's like they need somebody with more wisdom, especially probably somebody married.
Yeah.
Are these standards too high?
It should be a married guy.
Yeah.
It should be a guy who's seen multiple relationships come and go,
Yeah.
who's 20 years older than you, who works maybe with young adults, works with marriages. Like, run it through that guy.
Yeah.
Don't run it through your guy, your pal, who's just going to pat you on the back and say, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
And that's the same for the girls.
Yeah. Okay. So
That
where do you
idea
think,
is same.
where do you think that girls have too high of standards?
I would say just in general with high standards, my top problem, my top issue with it is this. A lot of the people I find that have high standards are not actually living up to those standards themselves. And the word behind that is entitlement.
Ooh.
They're entitled to something that they feel is what they deserve, something that's awesome and great that they don't have to live up to themselves.
Wow. That's true.
And that's true for both sides.
Yeah.
Like
for guys and girls.
Yeah, both sides are wanting something that they're not really living up to at the end of the day. Now, some people are living up to those standards.
Yeah.
And they are like running their life
Okay, that's a good question.
with excellence.
Because what if the guy or the girl in this case is emotionally pretty healthy, has done a lot of work, but then she comes in contact or he comes in contact and starts dating somebody who maybe is still in the process of their healing journey.
Yes.
So they're not on the same place. So should my standard be, nope, I'm going to be with somebody who's as healed as I am, who's done just as much work as I've done? Should that be the standard?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm always cautious to project my same standard because there's probably a good chance that they're maybe more mature than me in some areas. They've probably come and could help me out in some areas of my life. So I never want to look at it out with pride. I never want to look at it out as like, I've made it this far. Like, you haven't made it on that far on your own. There's been a lot of amazing people on your journey helping you. There's been God helping you. There's been Jesus. Like, there's the will underneath your will.
Yeah.
So I would say in humility, look for someone who is maybe running at a similar pace. And even if they're not in the same place in their life, like, where are they maybe greater than you in some areas? Where are they better? Where can they challenge you? I was not on the same place of emotional healing and growth that you had been. I hadn't been to as near as much therapy as you had.
Right. True.
But there's also other areas in my life where I could challenge you and lead you and, that really, really grew you and have grown you.
Yeah.
So you're not looking for a copycat version of yourself. You're not looking for a clone. Like, every person is so unique and different in their story. I would say look for the areas in their life where they do challenge you, where they are better than you, where you can learn something from them. And in the other areas where you want to see them grow or learn, give it time and see if they rise to the occasion. I love that aspect of relationship. Wherever they have deficiencies or areas that they need to grow in, which is all of us. Give them the opportunity to rise to the occasion and see what they do.
Sometimes when you have too high of standards, I think the biggest issue is that you don't give other people the opportunity to rise up. And instead you just judge them and write them off. And again, that's you thinking more of yourself like, oh, I'm better than them. I've done this. I've gotten there and they haven't. And also you miss being curious and even asking questions. So you might write them off something right away and be like, nope, sorry, next. When you don't actually know like what's behind that. Is that something that they're working on? Is it something that they're willing to work on? And so sometimes when you have too high of standards, you're just really easy to go straight to the next person instead of getting curious, instead of giving them the opportunity to change and grow, which every person is capable of.
Yeah. And I do think it's fair to give that opportunity. And the reality is like, they're probably deficient in some areas that they need to grow in. And you are also deficient in some areas that you also need to grow in.
Amen.
Like, you're both human.
Yeah.
So I do love that aspect though of how do I know if my standards are too high? ask someone who's much more wise than you,
Yeah.
who's seen a lot more marriages and relationships than you. I'm not saying your friends are bad resources, but if I would have asked my friends, my peers who had no experience with trauma, with like emotional women and blah, 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 if I would have asked them if I should have kept dating Kait, they would have said, walk away, man. Like, she's way too emotional. Like, your standards are not too high if you want a woman who's emotionally healthy. Like, they could have,
And that loves football. And golf.
you know, like they could have like twisted it if they wanted to, versus I think like that's why we need discipleship. We say that so many times in this podcast. We need people who are wiser than us to speak into our lives for this very reason.
Yeah.
What's up, fam? This show is sponsored by Armra Colostrum. In case you guys didn't know, I like to share stuff with Kait. That is all the way from the sweater I'm wearing right now. Yes, technically this is Kait's sweater, all right, but it's gender neutral, okay? And I don't know if it's a good thing if it fits me and her. I don't know who that is a problem for, but let me tell you about Armra. It's colostrum. That's the essential ingredient you hear that the babies get in their first nutrition of life, in their first months of life. And what I love is by, yes, taking even Kait's colostrum that was sent for her without my name on it, I've actually noticed a huge difference in my life. I actually forgot to take it with me in Europe, and I noticed a huge difference in my recovery, my performance, my just day-to-day mood, and fatigue. And for me personally, I don't know, I guess I'm just lazy. I just love any nutrient, any super nutrient I can just dump into my coffee, dump into my protein shake. I can't even taste it, which is really nice. And I just go on about my day, and I absolutely feel it in my recovery, my sleep, and the next day. So if you guys are interested in trying Armra, that's tryarmra.com, TRYARMRA.com/HOD, and use that code HOD to get 15% off your first order. Promise you guys will love it. Okay, so I thought it would be fun. I found this tool. It's literally called like Are My Standards Too High test. It's on TikTok. You can find it, and you go in and you punch in like, I'm a female looking for a man. Here's my age range. Here's the height. Here's the religion. Here's the income, things like that.
Oh.
So we're going to build, if you were single, we're going to build your man, and we're going to see what percentage of the population this is.
Okay.
Build it on somewhat high standards.
Okay.
Not insane. Okay.
Before I met you, when I was still like pretty.
Yeah, this is single Kait.
A little cray.
Okay. So you were looking for men.
Yes.
Okay. Wants kids.
Yes.
Okay. Age.
I would say only my age or 5 years above.
Okay. What about younger?
No.
Okay. So 34 to 39 or 33 to 39, 38?
No, I'm 35.
Oh, okay. So you're doing like current age.
Yeah.
Okay. 35 to 40. Okay. What about height? What was your height range?
I was a little more flexible with height, but I would have preferred somebody my height.
Okay. So 5'7"?
5'7" or above.
Okay. 5'7" to 7 foot. Okay. Here's a good question. Minimum income.
Definitely wanted them to make at least 150,000.
Whoa.
I was living in California, so
150 minimum.
Yep.
Oh my goodness! Like, you wouldn't have been cool with 70.
Not in California, no.
But you don't make 150.
Don't tell people.
You are making half that. Okay, dang. Ethnicity, any?
I was pretty open. Gosh, how crazy do I get out here?
Well, this, you can only pick one or do any. So unless you're like, they have to be like black or they have to be white.
When I was being picky, I wanted to date a white guy.
Okay.
But I was completely open by the end. To be honest, I didn't care.
Okay, so we'll do any. Okay.
Sure.
Hair color.
Didn't care.
Okay. Eye color.
Light eyes.
Okay, let's see if we have light. We have green, blue, brown.
Green and blue.
Okay, but you can only do one.
Blue.
Okay. Dang. Okay, you really find out about someone. Education.
At least college degree, bachelor's.
Okay, at least a bachelor's. Religion, Christian.
Yep.
You weren't looking for any other ones?
No.
Okay, smokes.
No,
Okay.
definitely not.
Drinks.
Is there a way to put like socially?
Either. Yeah. Like could
Yeah,
be yes,
sure.
could be no.
Okay.
Okay. Exclude previously married.
No, I was open to that.
Okay. Exclude obese.
Yes.
Why are you laughing? What? No, you laughed.
Because you had a smirk on you.
I didn't laugh.
You're picturing me
Okay,
with
here we
an
go.
obese guy. That's
All right.
what you were doing.
I mean, I am chunky. Oh my goodness. Okay, there's 165 million men in the US. Your criteria met 0.104%.
0.1% of guys.
Yeah,
in
not
America.
1%. Your criteria met 0.1%.
Okay.
There's 171,000 eligible bachelors according to your criteria.
171,000? That
Yeah.
seems pretty high.
I mean, it is high. I mean, there's also 165 million men.
Well, and there's a lot of cities, and it just that like split that divided by like all the cities in America.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. There's like a
How
couple
many-
thousand in
How
each
many
city.
cities are like major cities are there in America?
I mean, is there like at least like one major city in each state, and then maybe
At least.
Yeah.
So that's 50 plus probably additional 10.
Yeah, there's probably like
So divide that number.
there's probably like 2,000 or 3,000.
Okay, let's do this.
each city.
Calculator. Let's divide.
Say there's like 100 major cities.
165.
That's what one.
Okay,
there's like
divided by
1.7.
So that means 1,650.
Yeah, 1,700 guys per city.
Okay, that's not that bad.
I mean, but there's millions of. Okay, that is a lot. Wow. I mean, so the world got really small really fast for you. 0.1%.
0.1% is pretty low.
Okay, should we do me?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're looking for a woman or a man?
Should we tell them?
No.
Kate had to ask me when we were dating if I was gay
Yep. So you wanted
because
women.
I was so in touch with my emotions. I would take that as a compliment.
Did you care if they wanted kids?
Yes.
Age.
What am I doing current age right now? 29?
Yeah.
I feel like 29, you have a big range. You can do 24, 23. We'll do 23 to 30.
Oh, right. Because you're a guy. So
Yeah. Post college, a year or two.
okay. Height.
Height, I'm fine with the shorty.
Oh, interesting.
5'1".
You were good with shorter gals?
Yeah,
To
yeah.
what height?
Up to as tall as possible.
Are you serious?
I mean, I'm not gonna marry like.
Okay, wait. So 7 foot. You're.
I mean,
open
if
to
she
it.
have, I mean, I don't think that exists, but yeah. I mean, I was fine dating a girl who was
Okay.
also 6 foot.
Minimum
6'1".
income.
I didn't care that much.
Interesting.
I was fine with if she's making 30,000.
What?
Yeah,
Okay, so you weren't.
I
that picky.
I didn't marry you for your income. That's for sure.
Okay, I had no debt, so I don't know what you're talking about. Ethnicity,
I was any is fine.
hair color,
Any,
eye color,
any.
education,
I was cool with any. If she didn't go to college,
religion,
Christian,
no Buddhist, smokes,
non-smoker,
drinks,
either.
excluding somebody who's previously married.
Let's go ahead and say yes, just
Okay.
for the sake of
And
this.
exclude obese.
Yeah.
Okay. Yours is not that bad.
Well, we'll see.
All right, that's so there's 168 million women
Okay.
in America. Your results give you 1.78%.
That's it.
Mine was 0.1%.
But think about what I just said. I was super, super lenient.
That's 2.9 million.
That's actually a pretty big number, though.
Yeah.
That's wild. 2.9 million.
So you were willing to date a lot of women.
I mean, yeah, I was pretty open.
So is this showing people that they can be picky or not?
I would just say for this episode, are your standards too high? There is a healthy place to approach high standards. And I would say the opposite of the word entitlement is humility.
Mm-hmm.
It's one, humility that what God has for you is better than anything that you could probably dream up for yourself. And two, it's humility that we don't deserve. Right?
Yeah.
Like, if you think too low of yourself, you think that you deserve punishment, harm, that you deserve a bad spouse. If you think too high of yourself, you think you deserve the most perfect person.
You're perfect.
Exactly. So it's neither.
And then you'll also come into any conflict thinking like it's not you, it's always them.
Exactly. So the word deserve needs to be deleted.
Yeah, I think
it's humility.
The reality is what you're looking for is somebody to complement you in the kingdom of God. So when you have standards, there should be a level of standard that says, I'm looking for somebody that together we're greater for the kingdom than apart. But outside of that, when it comes to lifestyle, when it comes to how much money they make, when it comes to like, do we like all the same things? Like those things shouldn't really matter because those things don't really affect the kingdom of God, which is the ultimate purpose of marriage. So in terms of standards, look for somebody where together you're going to do greater things for the kingdom than apart. Outside of that, I think it should be open-handed.
Yeah. Absolutely. What do you think about this question? I should only date someone and marry them if they add value to my life.
Oh, but behind that is what I want to know. Because adding value in terms of, okay, do they challenge me in Christ?
Right.
Is a good thing. But adding value as in, oh, they make me feel so good. And, you know,
they have a great income.
Yeah.
Their family's wealthy.
Right. Like, it's like, what kind of value? Is it materialistic value or is it like
easygoing, fun
kingdom-minded value?
Yeah. They let me,
I don't know.
They let me do my hobbies, let me golf 3 times a week. They're cool with my gambling. You know, they really let me be me and have autonomy.
Yeah. My biggest thing is how to test if you have high standards. Are you curious with the people that you're dating?
Yeah, that's a good one.
When you come across something that feels not what you prefer, do you get curious? Do you ask questions? Do you give them an opportunity to either change or explain themselves? If you don't, with non-judgment. If you don't do that, then you have too high of standards.
Yeah. Well, that was a fun episode. Fun fact, we didn't really have a ton of bullet points. This one was much more conversational.
This was more free flow.
So I really enjoyed it.
Good job, JJ.
Yeah. We love you guys. Have a great day. Blessings to you.
Bye. The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kait and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring this show to you each week. I want to shout out Kelsey Napier, our Heart of Dating digital marketing coordinator, and Elena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.